Hello, I'm Richard Vobes. Welcome to another reading of I Saw Two Englands, yes, by H.V. Morton. Welcome to the Bold Explorer Live. Hope you're all well. Hello to Adrian, Turbo Stream, and Ed Loud. Nice to see you guys, and anybody else who's popped along. Good of you to come. We're going to carry on doing our reading. I've been out again filming. How is your roof hole today? Oh, yes. How is your roof, Ed? Hope it's still intact. Many thanks for the kind response earlier. I wasn't really expecting it so promptly. Well done. Well, you could have just asked on the show. I was quite happy for you to upload those videos. Of course, they're your videos. So you do whatever you like with them. Hello to Jamie Boy. Hello to Laura. Hello to Michael Angel. Hello, phone. Clicking away. Hello, Mike Stevens. And hello, Panox. Nice of you to come by on today's reading. So just in case you don't know, we do a live reading at 4 o'clock, which is about now. We're sort of halfway through chapter 3 on I Saw Two Englands, which was published by H.V. Morton, which was published in 1939, just at the outbreak of the war. Hello to Steve G. Hello to the lovely Julia. And so far, he's just gone to Kent. We haven't got very far. This, it seems, according to the lovely Linda Kane, is an abridged version of a bigger version. So it's probably just as well it's abridged because it would be quicker to read, I suppose. Jamie Boy says, how's your lockdown going? Well, it's going very well. Thank you very much. Someone left the back door open, so I've been nipping out, making videos. One has to do what one has to do, don't you know? So it's all good. Another bright, sunny, warm day today. I was a bit flagging of energy, I have to say, in West Chiltington, but here we go. I managed to get it done. It's all edited. It's all online. And there's just one little mistake in there, which I wonder how many people will notice. There's probably more mistakes than that, but the one that I noticed, but I'm not going to mention what it is. And it's not a deliberate mistake, but it won't harm the production. Rabiboo, hello. He says, I was just listening to yesterday's show. Didn't know murder of the priest could be so hysterical. Did you not know? Oh my! That was an absolute true rendition of what happened. That's a true Thomas à Becket. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Bob Justice, good morning from Orlando. Lovely to see you. Hope it gets repaired. Your roof, Ed. Yes. Hello, everybody. Actually awake for once. What time is it where you are today? It should be. What is it? Well, it was 6. Is it 8 o'clock now? Is it about 8 o'clock where you are, or something like that? Because it's a bit earlier, isn't it? I've been out to Mellow Parks near me in Wellington and was lovely weather. Fantastic. That's nice. Wellington, is that... where is that? Is that the Surrey way? Is that Surrey way? Meadow Parks. Just trying to sort of piece that together in my little head. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. He was with the bowler-hatted gardener, if you remember rightly, and... He finished there by asking, you've heard of Dean Farrar, of course. I was his gardener. that was the punchline to yesterday's reading. So that's nice. Right. So anyway, we move on from there. I was laughing so hard I almost wet myself. Oh, well, there you go. You've made my day. Thank you very much. Wellington is near Carshalton. Yes, that's right. Where what's his face? Andrew Norris took me to look at the black timbered or the black clad houses. I forget what they were called. The First World War, whatever. Yeah, you know, near where Mark lives, exactly. Right, let's crack on. So we left him there, and I'll have a slurp of coffee. By the way, mugs are available from the website, baldexplorer.com, should you want one. When I arrived at Walmer, I found it was the one day of the week, a Thursday, on which Walmer Castle, the residence of the Lord Warden of the Cinque Ports, is open to the public. How convenient. I bought a ticket and was admitted to a garden which I thought was almost perfect. It was simple and full of colour and scent, and its peculiarity is that it is made on the edge of the moat that runs around the castle. I should have been willing to while away my sixpence ticket in the garden, enjoying the scent of the flowers and the hum of the bees, but I felt I ought to know something about the rooms in which the Iron Duke laid down his 83 years. Wait, I'm on his website. What? Travels by Narrowboat. Hello, I have internet today, so hopefully it holds out for your stream. Let's hope so, Trev. Whereabouts are you? I need to get out and shoot some vids. I've got out of the habit this last week. Yeah, there we go. Busy Bee, hello everybody. I hope today is as funny as yesterday. Well, you never know. You never know. Thank you very much, Busy Bee, for coming by. An official took me through a fearsome-looking gateway into the house, which has been almost hysterically cheerful in contrast to the grim bastions of its exterior. The problem of making a home out of a rugged mass of masonry constructed with the sole purpose of repelling first the Spaniards and then the French cannot have been easy. Lord and Lady Wellington were in residence, and they suffer the public to tramp through their charming living room once a week, on the way to the room where the Duke of Wellington died in 1852. Can you imagine that? I mean, I don't suppose they do that now, do they? I think they just move out, don't they? And the National Trust or whoever looks after it. But I don't think they move out of their living room time. But I do seem to remember in the early 80s or something, when I was a younger version of the balding, ugly bloke that you see in front of you, there was that sort of notion still going on. Oh, I'm moored up in Rugby. Lovely, 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 lovely. I once lost a wing mirror in Rugby. Not playing the game, you understand. As soon as I entered this room, it captured me completely. Its sternness, its simplicity, its touch of almost priggish discomfort, and its lonely pathos seemed to reflect the life that had been lived there. Reflect the life that had been lived there. It has been kept, whether by accident or design, I do not know, almost exactly it was the day he died. Nothing has been altered. You almost expect the door to open and to see the old Duke, hook-nosed and silver-haired, glide in with a frosty gleam in his blue eyes. I'm sure these things, when these people die, the room gets changed, moved about, his effects are, sold off and all that, and life goes on. And then at some point in the future, somebody goes, maybe we could turn this into a bit of a museum and have people in. And then they either have to buy all the stuff back, or they just buy approximations and, make it look like it's never been lived in since the day he died. But who knows? Wellington made no concessions to old age. With the whole of Walmer Castle to live in, he preferred one small bed-sitting room modelled on the tent of a subaltern, and a frugal subaltern at that. His bed was an iron camp bed, 3 foot wide. He allowed himself no luxurious blankets, but only a German quilt. The one Saberitic, there's a word, Saberitic, is that a word? Somebody can look this up. Sabaritic, Sabaritic touch is the horsehair pillow covered with chamois leather, and this he used to take about with him whenever he spent the night away. A mahogany desk, a few books, a few engravings, a reading desk at which he wrote his letters standing, and 1 or 2 chairs complete the furniture. An ivory statuette of Napoleon sitting astride a chair used to stand on the mantelpiece. That was how he commanded the Battle of Wagram, Wellington once told a certain Mr. Tucker as he pointed to the statue. Such was the simple room in which the hero of Waterloo spent much of his life from the age of 60 until his death. What age did Wellington die? He was always called at 6 in the morning, said the guide in an appropriately military voice. There we go. He was always called at 6 in the morning, said the guide in an appropriate military voice. He went for an early morning walk, ate very little breakfast, came up here and read or wrote letters, standing at that desk by the window. He answered all his letters himself, and people used to write to him about all sorts of silly things just to get a reply. Sometimes they got a good ticking off and proper. At 11:30 at night he used to light a candle and come up to bed. This grand old Tory, who resisted every reform with the stern formality of his native century, the 18th, remained a national hero for all his latter life, with one brief exception. When he opposed the Reform Bill, he rode slowly through London, hook-nosed and bleak, to the jeers of a mob and the hail of brickbats and mud. As he reached Aspley House in Piccadilly, he turned and said to the police constable by his side, "An odd day for them to choose." He had remembered that it was the anniversary of Waterloo. As he grew older, his role merged naturally from that of Achilles into that of Nestor. They consulted him about everything. When the Crystal Palace was first erected in Hyde Park in London, sparrows failed to show proper respect for the assembled works of art, and obviously and with so much glass about it was impossible to shoot them. So the Queen sent for the Duke, the dear Duke, who would know what to do. "My husband and I..." "We are not amused." Try sparrowhawks, ma'am," he said instantly. "Very good suggestion, Mr. Duke of Wellington." "It's my pleasure, Your Majesty." "It was Wellington's last victory," commented Mr. Philip Goodale in The Duke. Perhaps his last victory was the conquest of age. At 80, he was as bright and as sprightly as a robin. To the public, he was always a tight-buttoned, reserved character, aloof from the warmer passions of life, and great would have been the astonishment of the public had they seen the Duke now and then behind the ramparts of Walmer. He loved children to stay with him. Before dinner he would dress, always in the uniform of Lord Warren, a blue coat with red facings and tight white overalls strapped under the boot, and he would sit reading the newspaper. The children then played a game which they called the Battle of Waterloo. This began when one of them threw a cushion at the Duke's paper. Lord Stanhope, in his Notes of Confessions with Duke of Wellington, tells how on one occasion the old man learned that the small children of the Lord and Lady Robert Grosvenor, who were staying with him, loved to receive letters by post. Every day he took the trouble to write to each one a careful little letter which was posted and delivered by a castle servant. He was very kind not only to the children of friends, but also to those of strangers. One day, a woman and 2 children were being turned out of the castle grounds when he rode up and apologised to them. Never mind, he said. "You're quite welcome to go where you will. And, by the way, bring the children here tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I will show them all about the place myself." They found luncheon ready, and after showing them around the gardens, Wellington took from his pocket some half-sovereigns, which he had tied up in a blue ribbon, and he hung each coin around their neck. What a nice old chap he was. He was fond of filling his pockets with surprises, and it is recorded that on one unbelievable occasion he appeared to the children who were staying at the castle dressed up like a Christmas tree, with toys tied all over him. Obviously had a bit of Alzheimer's, I think. No one living at the time would have believed this, for in public he never permitted one hint of human feeling to escape him. He was an icy, forbidding old man, high-handed, formal, bitingly candid in his comments about men and affairs. He died in the little bastion room after only a few hours' illness. "I feel very ill," he said to his valet. "Send for the apothecary." Those were his last words. He had a fit in the night, and died the next day, aged 83. He was buried to the sound of a nation's grief, and when the guns boomed over London, as the funeral car swayed through the hushed streets to St. Paul's, England said farewell to the 18th century. The guide took me downstairs to a room fitted up as a museum, and I saw the last coat worn by Wellington and the telescope he used at Waterloo. Ah, how nice. That's my telephone. But unfortunately, I can't take. It's my sister ringing me up. You can't ring me up in the middle of a show, you know. Can't ring me up live. I'm doing a show. I'll have to ring her back. Or ring her ears. Or ring her neck. One of the two. I'll ring. I will return the call. That's probably a better way of putting it. Diane Patterson says, "I think everyone belonging to Wellington was kept. He was a saint during his life." Oh. Fond of sensuous luxury and pleasure, self-indulgent. Oh, is that what it means? How Marv. Cyberatic. There we go. There's a massage. Cyberatic, adjective of sensuous luxury and pleasure. Think pleasure. Oh, Mr. Vobes. You re-unsoby are most... Yes, over... Exactly. Don't expect me to try and read those words on a blurry screen. Sarbaritic. Oh, right. 'Cause you are not into IPA. Well, an Indian pale ale is very nice, but at the moment I'm drinking tea. Linda Kane, here we go. "Hi everyone," she says. "Late to the party, just said cheerio to my sister who came over for a suitably distanced lunch in the garden." You're not supposed to have it in the garden. Did you know that? You're not supposed to go in the garden. You're supposed to be outside on the doorstep. Nobody has guests around and sits them on the doorstep. Of course they go in the garden. It's the most ridiculous thing that they have come up with, these people in the government. "Aspley House has a steel shutters to keep the mob out." Yes, I'm not surprised. Good idea. "We are definitely getting a vocabulary lesson with these readings, aren't we, Ed?" And Jim Mugford. Hello, Jim. "Hi, Richard. Really enjoying the series Walking Around Sussex. Glad the lockdown has eased in the UK. Starting to relax here in Canada. All the best." I'm very pleased to hear that you too can wander around the streets and not get the nasty people, the people peering through their windows going, "What's he up to? He should be inside, shouldn't he?" That's what they say about me. But as yet, they haven't caught me and put me inside. Although I do actually have an arrow suit, which would suit me. There were two gruesome relics. His death mask and the silk handkerchief which was used to tie up his jaw. A certificate attached to the handkerchief, signed by James Kendall, the valet, stated that the handkerchief slipped from the jaw, but the knot never came untied, and so remains today the knot which was made on the 14th of September 1852. Can you imagine that? While I was looking at these things, a huge man, almost as wide as he was tall, came into the room. He was blubbering over with vitality and high spirits. Buried in the flesh of his huge face was the mischievous countenance of a boy aged 10. He swept up the guide and myself into his terrific enthusiasm, and soon we were listening to a lecture about the Iron Duke. It was a good lecture. We tried to interrupt once or twice, but without success. When I got this large man alone in the garden, I told him that I enjoyed his discourse, and we sat beneath a tree. "Wellington was a grand old boy," he said. "Although I don't agree with any of his politics, he was a grand old boy. I'm writing a book to be called Pattern of English Life, in which I have a lot to say about the old man. You heard some of my book inside, didn't you? I was interested to hear you call Wellington the first modern Englishman." "I think the modern idea of an Englishman... What I think the modern idea of the Englishman as a quiet, silent, stoical bloke who considers it bad form to show his feelings dates from Wellington. His influence on English life was so terrific that the public school Englishman copied his unemotionalism. Behaving like a gentleman was Wellington's contribution to English manners. As a nation, we are by nature emotional to a degree. We're sloppy and sentimental. It's only within the last century that crying in public has gone out of fashion. Think of the Elizabethans. They were always in tears. The whole of the House of Commons used to burst out into crying. Think of Nelson, an Englishman of the old type, emotional, sentimental, bombastic. How different were Nelson and Wellington. What worlds apart they were. The only one occasion they ever met, in a waiting room in Whitehall. Wellington thought Nelson was no gentleman. Why? Simply because Nelson talked too much. It wasn't done. Kiss me hardy. Can you imagine Wellington saying that? Of course you can't. It was the voice of the old, dramatic, tearful Elizabethan England. Nelson was the last Elizabethan. Wellington was the first modern English gentleman. I shall buy your book." "That's the way to talk," shouted my large friend, and wringing my hand heartily, he rushed like a frolicsome elephant through the garden. A frolicsome elephant, I like that. And now, if you don't mind, I must just quickly go to Amazon and see if there is such a book as was just then mentioned. Amazon. I don't want Amazon Prime, thank you. Amazon.com. Bing. Hello, this is Amazon.com. Sign in? Why am I not already signed in? What was it called? What was it called? Oh, what was it called? Pattern of English Life. Pattern of English Life. Let's see if it's there. No. No such thing. No such thing. Doesn't mention his name, did it? Didn't mention his name. Pattern of English Life. Well, obviously, let's put in there history. Put in there history, see if that comes up with anything. The nature of order. No. No. Oh, well, that was a waste of time. I take that all back, ladies and gentlemen. I take that back. There is no such book. Jeff Kellison, I had to drop my phone in the seat behind me. I was in a total panic. That was my phone that was dialing Vobes. No, you come in on the house phone, which is actually a different phone. Ed Loud says, Jeff, a hilarious image in my mind. And Wellington said Napoleon was no gentleman, but his hat was worth 40,000 men on the battlefield. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Hey, Richard. Oh, yes, I've read that one. Thank you very much. Wellington's death mask looks very gummy. No Waterloo teeth for him. Did he have no teeth? Anyway, I once met a Turkish diplomat who had just arrived in this country for the first time. He spoke English almost perfectly, having, as he had said it, belonged to the class of Turk, which 40 years ago was much governess-ridden, the governesses being English. I asked him if England were not a surprising change from the mountains and plains of his own country, and he thought for a moment. "Yes, England is delightful," he said, "but when I go into the country I have the feeling that I have fallen into a plate of spinach." To one accustomed to the hard outlines of mountains covered in snow in winter and burned brown in summer, or to the plains that lie to the sky, stone-covered and almost bare of herbage, I suppose the neat greenness of the English landscape is at first unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Weald of Kent is perhaps what my Turkish friend would call spinach country. Incredibly green, incredibly neat, and incredibly English. This is the part of Kent that has gained for the country the title of Garden of England. And on a sunny day in summer, you can find no better name for it. Even a casual glance at the map of the English Weald reveals a remarkable number of villages ending in Hurst and Den. Penshurst, Ashurst, Spieldhurst, Lamberhurst, Hawkhurst, Goudhurst, Staplehurst, Shaddockshurst, and many other lie within a comparatively small area. Also, do the Dens: Bethersden, Smarden, Standen, High Holden, Tenterden, Biddenden, still get that wrong, Benenden, Frittenden, Revolvenden, and Marden. You can go for miles in this part of Kent, passing through village after village with the same termination. These names mean that once upon a time, all the villages, now in the open country, were dotted around in a thick forest. Hurst is the Anglo-Saxon hurst, a wood or den or dean. Dean is a hollow or clearing of trees. No matter where you find hursts, dens or holts, places that contain the words oak, ash, birch, birk and elm, you can be sure that the country was densely wooded at some time, even though today it may be as bald as a billiard table, or as bald as the Vosges. Many people do not realise that the English countryside is always changing its appearance. I've met some who will take their stand on a hill and believe, as they look around them, that they are gazing upon the same scene that met the eyes of our remote ancestors. Except maybe on the chalk downs of Kent and Sussex and on Salisbury Plain, this is not so. An Elizabethan would see enormous changes in the appearance of the country, while a Saxon and a Norman might have some difficulty in recognising their own lands. When the Romans came to Britain, they saw a forest lying everywhere in the lowlands, covering the Weald of Kent, much of the Midlands and many of the river valleys, and stopping short only at the marshes and fens. Above this sea of green rose the smooth outlines of the South Downs, where primitive man, lifted above the dangerous forests, have saved his life. Well, actually, I don't think that's quite true, because when the Romans came, the Neolithic people had cleared a lot of the woodland away already, according to Oliver Rackham, who is was a leading ecologist. And so that may be the old thinking there, that when the Romans came, it was still, and there were still some forests, obviously, because the Normans and stuff had forests and what have you, but a lot of the land had been cleared by the Neolithic people before the Romans. How much the forests the Romans cut down during the 400 years of their occupation is unknown. Well, I don't think they did a great deal of that, because I think it was pretty much all done. But it is no doubt right to imagine Roman Britain as a land in which straight paved roads ran through forests and across marshes to well-planned walled towns. Well, I think that's true. Both Saxon and Norman inherited the forest, and the story of the country's transformation during those periods is that the woodman and his axe, the making of the fields from forest, the clearing of the hurst, and the planting of the wooden shacks in the dens. Physical changes such as forest clearance, the draining of fens and marshes, changes in agriculture and in land tenure, and the use of brick in building have made some difference to the appearance of England. Our grandfathers contributed the railway and telegraph and tree-planted landscape, and we have added the electric cable, the grid, the bypass, and the arterial road. Who calls it an arterial road these days? It's not, therefore, right to talk about the natural beauty of the country. It is a beauty that is anything but natural, the result of centuries of hard work and innovation. And that bit, I do agree with him. When they talk about the natural beauty, it's, right from the Neolithic times when they started to farm. It's all the natural beauty has come from a lot of hard work. That's very true. If I had to give a prize to a Hurst, I would award it to Goudhurst, and if to a den, to Biddenden. To Biddenden. Goudhurst stands on a hill and is well worth going to see as an example of a fine Kentish village. I suppose the highest point only 400 feet above the sea, but the view over the Weald might be from the top of Ciney. The church at Goudhurst is fine and contains an Elizabethan sculptured tomb, a life-size man in armour, a Culpepper and his wife kneeling in prayer face to face, and below them, on a smaller scale, their regiment of children. It is remarkable that the Elizabethans could make such devout and touching tombs, while the Jacobeans, only a few years afterwards, perpetuated almost comical memorials, such as the Selby tomb in Offham Church. This shows Sir William Selby and his nephew, life-sized in armour, reclining in a hideously uncomfortable attitude on a marble shelf, one above the other, as though they were having an uneasy night in a sleeping car. Let's just pause there for a moment, just to see if there is. I found nothing either. Ramiboo says, I had a moment like that the other day at 5 a.m. I thought, oh no, which family member am I about ready to get screamed at before I realised the phone was on video ringing. Linda Kane says, after the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, looters, scavengers and even surviving soldiers began pulling the teeth from dead soldiers left on the battlefield. That's charming, isn't it? Linda Kane said, I've just read that. She then said they'd sort them into sets and sell them to the dentists who would boil them, cut off their roots and shape them into dentures. Now, there's a grim thought. Ed Loud says, only the Romans would have recognised my area perfectly. There is a bloke on his way to the shop in sandals and a dressing gown. Oh, well, there we are. You would have recognised him. Turbo Stream says, how dare it? Bloody English landscape changing without telling us. I know. It just chops and changes. The British would also cut off the fingers of the dead and sell them as souvenirs. Oh. Ed Loud says, I called it an arterial road in one of my videos and on the phone to you, Richard. Did you? Is that still in common parlance, an arterial road? It's funny. It does sound very old English, but very nice. I wish you would do a walk in Lenham, Kent. Yes, I may. Well, I've got to go over to Kent and do In Search of Kent again. Trev's Travels by Narrowboat says, I thought a lot of the ridge and farrow that we see in places is pre-Roman. Yes, I think it... probably Saxon, I think. I think most of it's likely to be Saxon. I've got a book called The Open Fields, and I did read pretty much all of it. It's all about the 3-field system, 2-field and then 3-field, and how I was going to do a video about that. Whatever happened to that? It was all a lot of hard work. Sorry, I've just seen a book. Just saw a book on my shelf. Was reading the title and thinking, oh yeah. Right, so that now it goes on to, how are we doing on the time? Biddenden, he goes on to. Biddenden, though only a few miles away, is as unlike Goudhurst as it can be, lying in flat country. Well, of course, I made a whole load of videos in Biddenden. A striking signpost at the entrance shows what appear to be two Cretan maidens joined together at the shoulder, and they remind the traveller that he has come to the village of the Bindon Cakes. Well, we never had any Bindon cakes when we were there. I went into a cake shop and asked the girl for a Bindon cake, expecting to be told that they were produced only at Easter time. To my surprise, she went to a tin and produced a flattish biscuit about 4 inches long and 2 inches wide, on which is a primitive raised design showing the Siamese twins of Bindon, joined at the shoulder and hip. Above their heads are the words Eliza and Mary Chalkhurst. It's funny because we didn't have any when we went to Bindon. And when I was seeing Harriet in Shrewsbury, they do the Shrewsbury cake. I think it's the Shrewsbury cake or the Shrewsbury biscuit. And I don't think they make that in Shrewsbury. You can buy it, but it's not made in Shrewsbury anymore. It's made in China, which is not very good on your teeth. How many would you like? The girl asked. I said I was surprised to be able to buy even one. Oh, we're often asked for them, she said. We keep them in stock all year round. They are exactly the same as Bindon cakes that were given away on Easter Day. Let's hope they're not mouldy then. The tradition is that about the year 1100, the Siamese twins were born at Bindon and were named Eliza and Mary Chalkhurst. When they reached the age of 34, one of them died, and the survivor refused to be separated from the body of her sister, a feat, incidentally, far beyond the power of medieval surgery. Not quite far beyond the power of medieval surgery. They did have big swords. They could have just gone, which one of you is alive? You. They may not have survived, of course. There is that slight thing in it. Anyway, as we came together, we will go together, said Eliza or Mary, for I do not know who was the survivor. In a few hours, however, she too was dead. That just goes to show. Look after your sister if you're a Siamese. The sisters are said to have left certain land to the parish, still known as Bread and Cheese Land, and from the revenue an annual Easter dole of Bindon cakes and bread and cheese is distributed to all and sundry on Easter Monday. I wonder if that really happens. I believe the cakes were once thrown down to the crowds from the church tower. I've been up the church tower. I can quite believe that you would want to throw cakes down at the riffraff below. Although the gift is still distributed and the money comes in as steadily as ever, the antiquarians have cast doubt on the story of the Siamese twins. Yeah, not surprised. Hasted, the Kent historian who was born in 1732, who believed that the land was given by two apparently normal ladies named Preston. He said that the rough drawing of the two women on the Bindon cakes was only about 80 years old in his day, and that they represented not Siamese twins, but two of the poor widows for whom the dole was originally established. It's strange that this very ordinary bequest has taken on such a hold on popular imagination and given Bindon so wide a fame. No doubt the story of the Siamese twins has a lot to do with it. Yeah, no doubt at all. From Bindon I went south and was soon over the border into Sussex.
Into Sussex? You're in Sussex now. We'll get you. We'll get you in Sussex. You'll come across the border. We'll have you. We will have you.
That, my friends, is a genuine gentleman's Sussex accent, which is why they've all got throat cancer, because doing that is very painful. Chapter 4. How are we doing on the time? 20 to 5. 20 to 5. I went to the chop house. Chapter 4. Let's just see if there's any massages coming up there. Ed Loud says, I must have Michael Angel on block by accident. I can't see his comments. Oh, Michael Angel says some very nice things. The British would also cut off the finger. I've read that. Cut off the fingers of the dead. I wish you would do... Oh, no, I read that bit too. Sorry. Ramiboo says, I finally figured this out, but now I don't remember. Turbo Stream, there was a way to unblock. Oh, you're talking about unblocking them, what have you? They still do it. I think they still do it. What? Lob the cakes from the top of the tower. We'll do a bit of chapter 4, why don't we? Why don't we? Because they're in Sussex. Let's see where he goes to in Sussex. I enter Sussex and go to battle to see the field of Senlac. In Alfriston I see a fine church, and in Lewes I find the last ironworks in Sussex. Crossing the Downs I come to Pycombe, where they make shepherd's crooks, and by the way of pretty Fittleworth I go to Bignor, and I see the Roman villa, and then south to Arundel and Chichester. I must go and do a walk round Bignor. Maybe I should do a walk round Bignor. Bignor. Maybe I'll do that towards the end of the week. Can't do anything tomorrow. I'm waiting for the log man. I've got some logs coming for my fire, my Essie, see? My Essie needs logs, and I'm waiting for the log man to come. He cometh with big 3 bags of logs, 3 bags full. One for the Essie, and one for the fool who's got to put them in the Essie, and the other for the garden. Right, in Sussex, here we go. Whoops. Stand by. Why is it that the oxen, the swine, the women, and all the other animals are so long-legged in Sussex? Asked John Burton in 1771. May it be from the difficulty of pulling the feet out of so much mud by the strength of the ankles that the muscles get stretched, as it were, and the bones are lengthened? I've heard that before, actually. I wouldn't say that the women and the oxen or the swine or any other things are particularly tall in Sussex, but there we are. The worker in Wealden clay still knows that Sussex is full of dirt and mire, and to our ancestors that was a distinguishing feature of the county. It is true that in the county of Sussex that there was a lot of mud, and the roads were said to be impassable. Loving the first paragraph, Richard is about to read, says Linda Kane. Oh, you're already one step ahead, aren't you, Linda Kane? I forgot you've got the book in front of you. Yes. Yeah, and it's all about Sussex, of course. Until the most modern times, the roads in Sussex were so unspeakably bad. I just said that. How about that? There you go. See, I don't make this up, you know. Until almost modern times, the roads in Sussex were so unspeakably bad that judges on circuit rarely ventured beyond the border towns of Horsham and East Grinstead. And when Defoe was in Sussex only a little over 200 years ago, he saw a lady of very good quality going to the church in a coach drawn by 6 oxen. He also noted that felled trees sometimes lay for a year until the muddy roads were dry enough for them to be dragged away by ox teams. It was undoubtedly the horror which the roads of Sussex inspired in the minds of our ancestors which enabled the county to keep itself and retain that rich dialect that what's his name? Robbins. What was his name? John Robbins. Do you remember the videos I made of Duncton? John Robbins. If only I'd listened to that more often. Yes, Richard. I can't do it. Yes, Richard. I can't do his accent. So it'll end up being a West Country accent, which is wrong, but that's all you're going to get. If anyone talks, it'll be, or I reckon that's right then there. See, that's my lover. Know what I mean? That'll be interpreted as Sussex, even though, of course, it's right down in the West Country, see? Anyway, where are we? Sorry, get out of the accent now. I can't, I'm stuck, you bugger. It was undoubtedly the horror, the da-da-da-da-da, the diddly-diddly-dee, the diddly-dee-dee-dee. Yes, it was undoubtedly the horror which the Sussex roads inspired the minds of our ancestors, which enabled the country to keep itself and retain the rich dialect and mass local custom and superstition, which delighted the people who wrote about Sussex even as recently as 50 years ago. Since that time, Sussex has suffered an invasion almost as complete and overwhelming as that which transformed the northern towns during the first stages of the Industrial Revolution. But the Sussex invasion was not of workers, no, but of retired people and wealthy weekenders. Yes, the Sussex squire has been replaced by the London stock jobber, and the Sussex cottage has become the paradise of the London financier. It is interesting to notice that as you motor through Sussex today, and bear in mind this is 1939, that while the old squire, like Charles II, took a long time in dying, the new squires are dying by the score, as the to-be-sold boards, which are to be seen outside many of the larger houses, clearly indicate. It's absolutely bang on the money, and they've all got the nice houses, and it's a rotten job. It's a rotten job. I was in West Chiltington today, and I have to say, I don't think I saw one old banger. They were all these Land Rovers or Mercedes, all these great big 4x4s in the countryside. None of them go across the land. None of them actually farm anything. They've just got, okay, they are narrow-ish lanes, but all nicely tarmacked, clean as a whistle. Not a single item of dirt anywhere to be seen. And they're all driving. I mean, they could just go around on penny farthings. They wouldn't get mucky at all. But no, they're all in these great big 4x4s. I don't mean to be mean to them in West Chiltington. I'm sure they're all very nice people. But it is strange, isn't it? But they are, yes, they're all, the city bankers who've bought up the big houses and turned the villages into something that they have never been in the last 80 years, particularly since the Second World War. And it gets my goat every time. The Sussex coast probably contains more thriving and populous towns than any other similar coast area in England. They lie in a long chain. Yeah, that's true. Hastings, St Leonard's, Eastbourne, Brighton, Worthing, I've heard of that, Littlehampton and Bognor Regis. These Sussex seaside towns alone have a resident population of nearly 500,000 people. Yes, I bet it's probably triple that now. 500,000. Phew. We'd be lucky. Some of the settlements on the Sussex coast are among the most hideous objects in modern England. Yes, you are so right. I will read that again to reiterate. And the thing is, they're making it worse every single day. Some of the settlements on the Sussex coast are among the most hideous objects in modern England. Let that sink in. If you've been to Peacehaven, you'll know why. My God. They have been run up by speculative builders and amateur builders and have ruined large parts of what was once a superb stretch of coast. The only consolation is that already they seem to be falling down. This is 1939. You wait till you get to the 1960s, when they were sticking up all that brutalist architecture. Oh my God! Then you get yourself into the 2020s when they're sticking up bloody huge, great, wobbly looking buildings, which are even more ghastly. You think it can't get ghastlier? It can get more ghastlier by the moment. Phew. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Towns like Eastbourne and Brighton should increase in dignity with years if local authorities will keep a keen watch on architects. Eastbourne is already pleasantly Edwardian, and Brighton is, without exception of Regent's Park in London, the most perfect example of the Regency period in England. But already in Brighton, the rot is setting in with box flats, and it goes on. No one with any taste will ever go there. The Sussex invasion still continues, and it is having its effect on the older agricultural Sussex, which carries on unobtrusively in the small towns and villages. The famous South Down sheep are being driven off the downs, for the growth of the huge seaside towns has created a tremendous demand for milk, with the result that cows are now becoming more profitable than sheep. Another factor in the dwindling of the South Downs flock is the disturbance caused by sheep by the advance of suburbia and the appearance of weekend horsemen and, worse of all, hikers with dogs. Yes! Halla bloody lulia! Phew! Ladies and gentlemen, you read this before, didn't you, Linda Kane? You knew what was coming, and you're absolutely bloody bang on. My God, they knew this 80 years ago. It was in print 80 years ago, and the swines have ignored him. 80 years ago, they knew, and what have they done? They have. It's so true. They've wrecked it. This man speaks the truth. What have we done? Why have we ruined this beautiful county with this monstrosity that is erected? And they're still doing it. And as he said, the people who move in there have no taste. And those people who come in and they say, when I put a video up saying, "Oh, look at this, isn't it disastrous? They're building this," and people are going, "Oh, Richard, you're such a fuddy-duddy there. It's nice, it's lovely." They have got no taste. Clearly, I am vindicated by this. Vindicated. I need a brandy now. I need something stronger than Kent and Sussex tea. I need something stronger. Birmingham roads are the same even now, says TurboStream. Linda Kane, did you contribute to this book, Richard? I wish. I don't need to. He has said it all for me. Ed, go to your channel and select settings. All right. Ha, here comes your rants in the pants moment. Richard is on a topic he loves. And he's right too. It is so true. Be glad you don't live in Birminghamshire. Yes, true. Well, that, I'm afraid, is, Birminghamshire is where everyone else seems to be aspiring to go at a rapid rate. Ramiboo says, I agree with the sentiment, Michael, but it still makes me laugh. Yes, oh my God. Ed Loud, I love it when he's on a rant. That's the reason I stick around. Rants in his pants. It's so true though, isn't it? I mean, how can people just lie down and let it happen? Why do not people rise up with their pitchforks and go, "You get off my land, you beggar. Don't you try nothing like that. We don't want your thought here. You made your money in London. You stick it in London." Yeah, why, it's happened all the sodding. It's so annoying. He's trying to pull a hair out that he doesn't have. Yes, and breathe. And breathe, and breathe, and breathe, and breathe, and breathe. Well, I think we should probably leave it there because how long have we been doing? 52 minutes. I'm itching to see what happens next. But that's the end of that sort of paragraph. I'll just read this bit, but I'll go back. I'll start this again. I'll just read this bit because the line just suddenly pinged in my face. If towns lived up to their names, Battle would be a place where men went red in the face with rage, gnashing their teeth and pushing people off the pavement. But in reality, it is one of the drowsiest and most peaceful little towns in Sussex. It has a share of its cafes and antique shops which establish themselves in all places where visitors assemble, and the only danger likely to be encountered in Battle today is the prices of the antiques. We will resume that. But isn't that right? Isn't that right? The Sussex invasion still continues, and it's having its effect on the older agricultural Sussex, which carries on unobtrusively in the small towns and villages. The famous South Downs sheep are being driven. I don't think we have the famous South Downs sheep anymore. I think they're a different breed altogether, aren't they? But the last paragraph is the damning. Another factor in the dwindling of the South Down flocks is the disturbance caused by sheep. Is the disturbance caused to the sheep by the advance of suburbia and the appearance of weekend horsemen, and worst of all, hikers with their dogs. I do not own a dog. And that is why I do not own a dog. I will not allow my dogs to all over the bloody natural countryside and leave little plastic bags with dog poo in it. It's absolutely outrageous. Too many dogs in this country. And there, ladies and gentlemen, with a happy face, we come to the end of another exciting reading. Do join me again tomorrow when I shall continue with this remarkable book. This book with spunk and verve. I love it. I love it. It's great. Each of the books that we've been reading have had a real English charm about them, and they have bitten certain elements of England, and I think that's absolutely spot on. And they knew what they were writing about back in the 30s in the 30s. They knew what they had, and we have let that slip in a lifetime. We have let it slip. Some of us are hanging on by our fingernails, trying to keep that bit of England that was the pinnacle of where we got to. And then the war happened, and then we just slid down. But hopefully now we're getting out of the bloody EU, and the EU seems to be crumbling aside. Maybe England is great again, and we can build up, get through the coronavirus and build up and be something to be proud of once more before we all perish. So there we go. Thank you very much. It's been fun. Another one. Michael Angel says, this is my favourite part of the day, and it goes so quickly. I know. It's but an hour is... my reading is better. I'm doing this every day. I'm reading much more confidently, which is great. Great rant on Chelsea tractors. Oh, yes, absolutely. Edward Moulding. Yes, Chelsea tractors. Again. Too many cats, says Kerry. Too many cats. Well, you don't see people walking their cats out in the countryside. Cats don't have a habit of running up to you and barking. I was out filming the day before yesterday on the way down from the King's Mill in Shipley. And what is it with dog? I mean, okay, I don't mind people having a dog, really. And I don't mind them going out for a walk with their dogs. I object to the fact that they don't clean up the mess. I object to that. I also object to the dogs that run up to people and bark, maybe covered in mud. There was this Springer Spaniel that came up, and he'd obviously been in a pond or something, covered in mud, and I'm in my outfit and I'm filming. And this thing coming up, A, is barking at me, and most of the time that's okay because they're not going to do anything. But I had this feeling that he might jump up at me. Now, I'm out filming, and I don't want my continuity ruined by suddenly having paw prints on me as I'm filming. And nobody should have a dog that's not theirs come up to them and even threaten to scare them or even jump. And I do get that occasionally they come up and the owners are just so complacent. Oh, he won't hurt you. Never mind that he won't hurt me. I don't want your beast near me. Thank you. This is a public highway. We can both share this. But I don't want your beast coming up to me. And least of all do I want him jumping up at me. And if he's carrying any of that COVID that you're obviously layered up to the hilt with, I don't want any of that spreading over me. Thank you very much. Or I will pull out my revolver and I will send him to his maker in the sky, the canine god of the clouds. Ugh. Quite right that farmers have the right to shoot dogs if they see them chasing their sheep. Now, I say this because my friend Harriet has got a little dachshund, and she would take him out, and this dachshund would just run off and chase the sheep, and we would have to go chasing. And I would say to Harriet, why don't you keep her on a lead? Oh, he'll be all right. She'll be all right. She'll be all right. But no, bang, she would go. It's like, Anyway, two rants in a day. Yes, thank you, Julia. Julia needs to get over here and calm me down with a bucket of water. Stop it, Rube, stop it. Anyway, I better go and ring my sister up. find out what she wants. She probably wants to find out what's going on with my house that we're not my house, my father's house that we're trying to sell, and to see what's going on. Apparently, we're in this chain, and now we can't still put back. It's still put back. We're in this chain, and now there's another feeble excuse why this one person who still wants to buy the house would just go, for God's sake, let's put it back on the market to somebody else. Anyway, I get the same when filming too. Bloody dog owners. Not all dog owners are bad, but there are enough bad ones to give them a bad name, says Linda Kane. Absolutely, I realise that not all bad dog owners are bad, of course. But you know what it is? It's sod's law that you're going to meet the ones that do not seem to care that their dog may be annoying somebody else. Sounds like Victor Meldrew in the most lovely way. Yeah, thank you. 1 foot in the grave there. Why does no one have one dog nowadays? Yes, everybody seems to have a million. Well, now, of course, most people seem to own dogs. They own the dogs, but they can't be asked to walk them themselves. They haven't got time to walk them themselves because they've got to work. So they get these dog people who have a van full of the buggers, and there they go belting all over the countryside. And the poor girl, and it's usually women who are walking these dogs, and about 12 dogs, and they're going, Fido, Fido, bravo, bravo, Flippo, Flippo, Henry, oh God. And the dogs are going in different directions, and the woman is she's got whistles that blow invisible noise, and dogs that she can't. Will you? And they're, will you get your dog off of me, please? Will you? Sadly, you are right, Linda. It just takes a few bad apples to spoil the cart. Absolutely. Yes, I agree. But what you said, except for the gun part. Narrow boat. Victor Mildrew gets a blast from the past. There we go. Don't worry, Julia. Nothing like Margaret Mildrew. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Join me again tomorrow. I'll be back on the Vobe Show later tonight on the Vobe Show channel if you wish to watch that nonsense. We don't have very many videos for tonight, but I believe the lovely Julia, hopefully, fingers crossed, is going to be on the show. So that's something to look forward to. I am now going to go and call my sister. See what she wants. Nice to see you. Take care. Look after yourself. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.